important factor that will come into play when product companies want to go beyond the 100 million users that they target today, right? So, and this is called the next billion users or the next 100 million users or whatever, by different companies. What is that most important factor that will be required by product companies to go after these new users? Well, I think it's going to be voice and vernacular interactions, right? Or voice-enabled vernacular interactions, as I'd like to call it. If you think about it, some of the key challenges that product companies or software companies face in reaching the next billion users in India today are lack of widespread English literacy, diverse languages across the country. There are 15 official languages, and similarly diverse cultural practices, right, and interpretations of different things that are used in communication. For example, less than 5% of users in India ever change the keyboard from English, from the default English setting, right? Now, you would assume that given that there are regional language keyboards and so on, there'd be a much higher adoption of vernacular keyboards. But this does not happen because there's both an awareness and a usability problem, right? First of all, a lot of people may not be aware that there is a keyboard other than English, right? Now, this requires some awareness. And I would claim that maybe 80 to 90% of people aren't even aware that there is another option beyond English. While people may be aware of options beyond English, a lot of them have taken to typing in Hinglish, which is typing Hindi words in using English letters. And the reason they do that is because changing over to a Vernac keyboard and then actually using a Vernac keyboard, which, as you know, may have more than 40 characters, is actually, a big problem. It's a usability problem. So while some have taken to typing in English, this is definitely not a sustainable or ideal solution. Voice interactions have the ability to overcome all these challenges by allowing users to skip the typing interaction altogether and instead depend on voice commands and conversations. And recent advances in AI and language translation are helping in this direction and bringing the next billion users to the forefront of digital interactions. So I would say that any product company that is serious about targeting the next billion users should seriously think of making an interface which is voice first, or which builds voice as a very important component of the interactions their app offers. Some of the key challenges in reaching the next billion users in India are lack of widespread literacy, the diverse languages that are there in the country, 15 plus languages, and the associated cultural practices. For example, less than 5% of app users ever change their keyboard from English, from the default English keyboard. Now, this obviously makes it very challenging for fintech companies to go beyond the first 100 million users that they're already targeting, right? There's both an awareness and a usability problem here. So obviously, while some users have taken to typing in English, for example, to do their payments and so on, this is not a sustainable or ideal solution because obviously, you're restricted in terms of the kind of words you can use. And I'm sure not everybody is completely comfortable with English. So voice interactions really have the ability to overcome these challenges and allow fintech apps to engage with users beyond the first 100 million users in India, right? How do they do this? They will basically completely skip typing interactions and instead depend on voice commands and conversations. So for example, you've already seen some fintech companies which are focusing on feature phones, which are using this to enable UPI payments on feature phones, right? So instead of opening up a typical, app that a payment app that, users in cities may use, a lot of these users open up their, this fintech app and then basically give voice commands to initiate payment transactions, right? So this is already happening, but we believe this will become more and more mainstream. And this will allow the next 100 million users or the next billion users to completely leapfrog typing interactions and immediately jump over to voice and vernac interactions.